Have you ever noticed how, in the quietest moments of life, we instinctively turn inward? A woman kneels by her bed, whispering a prayer into the night, asking God to heal her child. A man sits with his journal, writing affirmations that his business will prosper, visualizing the life he longs to create. Two different acts, two different languages, yet both are born from the same human desire, to reach beyond ourselves and touch the invisible power that shapes reality. And so the question arises, which one truly works? Is prayer, the ancient practice of faith and surrender, the real key to change? Or is manifestation, the modern practice of thought and intention, the hidden secret to shaping destiny? This is not curiosity alone. This is the question of life itself. Because at some point, every soul longs to know, am I heard? Do my words, my thoughts, my desires matter in the great unfolding of the universe? For centuries, prayer has been honored as the sacred bridge between man and God. But Emmet, one of the clearest voices of metaphysical Christianity, revealed a startling truth. Prayer is not begging. Prayer is not pleading. Prayer is not hoping for a distant deity to change his mind. Prayer, he said, is scientific. It is the act of aligning your thought with the infinite law of good, the divine mind that sustains all things. Now consider manifestation. In our time, it's everywhere. Your thoughts create reality. Imagination holds creative power. Vibration attracts experience. The language may sound new, but listen closely and you'll hear the same principle. What you hold in mind with conviction and feeling must externalize in your life. Could it be then that manifestation and prayer are not rivals, but two names for the same inner law? Prayer as devotion, manifestation as technique, one clothed in the robes of faith, the other in the garments of psychology. But beneath both, the same eternal river flows, the mind of man impressing itself upon the fabric of reality through divine law. And yet, here lies the problem. If this is true, why do so many prayers go unanswered? Why do so many attempts at manifestation end in frustration? Why do people beg for healing and yet remain sick? Why do they visualize wealth and yet remain in poverty? The answer is simple, and yet profound. Most people do not understand the law they are using. They pray as though God were a reluctant king to be persuaded, rather than an infinite presence to be trusted. They manifest as though the universe were a vending machine, rather than a living field that responds only to harmony with higher truth. And so, in this audiobook, we will walk together through the hidden mechanics of both practices. We will look at prayer through Emmet Fox's lens, not superstition, but scientific alignment with divine mind. We will look at manifestation not as shallow wishing, but as the disciplined art of thought, feeling, and belief. And we will discover that both are two doors leading into the same house, the house of your soul's creative power. Before this hour is finished, you will see that the real issue has never been prayer versus manifestation. The real issue is whether you are living in alignment with the law that governs both. And when you discover this, you will no longer wonder which one works. You will know that when practiced in truth, both do. So let us begin. Chapter 1. The hidden law behind both. Every human being, whether religious or not, at some point confronts the same invisible mystery. Why do some prayers seem to work, while others fall silent? Why do some intentions manifest with ease, while others dissolve like smoke? The world has tried to divide prayer and manifestation into two separate camps. One belongs to the faithful, the devout, the ones who believe in a personal God who listens. The other belongs to the seekers, the spiritual experimenters, the ones who believe in energy, vibration, and the subconscious mind. But beneath the surface, both are standing before the same truth. Emmet Fox would often remind his students of this. You are not dealing with a capricious deity, but with divine law. Let those words sink in for a moment. When you pray, you are not trying to twist the arm of heaven, hoping to change the mind of God. And when you practice manifestation, you are not conjuring something from thin air by sheer willpower. In both cases, you are engaging with a universal law, a law as exact as gravity, as reliable as mathematics, as unchanging as the rising of the sun. This is the first great secret that most of humanity has missed. Prayer and manifestation work, not by accident, not by chance, not because you have pleased God today and displeased Him tomorrow, but because of law. The law of mind, the law of thought, the law that says, as within, so without. Think of your mind as a mirror. Whatever image you hold steadily in that mirror must eventually be reflected outward into the screen of your life. This is not poetry. It is spiritual physics. When you hold in mind thoughts of health, gratitude, love, and faith, your life begins to organize itself in ways that correspond to those thoughts. You notice opportunities, you find strength in your body, and you attract harmonious relationships. When you hold in mind fear, resentment, doubt, and lack, your life reflects those images back with uncanny precision. Emmet Fox explained it this way. You cannot think one thing and produce another. Whatever you consistently think about will come into your life. That is the hidden law. So when a woman prays for healing, but secretly holds fear and doubt in her heart, her words may rise to heaven, but the law responds to her inner state, not her outer words. And when a man tries to manifest wealth, but secretly feels unworthy, he may paste affirmations on his wall, but the law responds to the vibration of his feeling, not the ink of his words. For centuries, prayer has been seen as asking, sometimes begging, for God to intervene. But Emmet Fox stripped away this superstition. He taught that true prayer is thinking in alignment with truth. It is lifting your thought above appearances and placing it firmly upon divine reality. When you pray rightly, you are not trying to persuade God to heal you, prosper you, or forgive you. God already is health, abundance, and love. Prayer is not about changing God, it is about changing yourself. It is the deliberate act of lifting your consciousness into harmony with the infinite good that already exists. Fox's famous method, the Golden Key, illustrates this perfectly. He said, whenever you face a problem, do not think about the problem. Instead, think about God. Not with ritual words, but with genuine focus. Every time fear tries to invade, turn thought back to the truth of God's presence. Do this, and the problem dissolves. Why? Because you have aligned your thought with the law of divine mind. Now consider manifestation. Modern seekers describe it as focusing on what you want until it appears. At its core, this is no different from prayer. The technique may shift, visualization, affirmations, scripting, but the law remains the same. Whatever image you impress upon the subconscious with conviction must externalize. The mistake many make is thinking manifestation is about ego, about forcing the universe to give them whatever they demand. But Emmet Fox would correct this. He would remind us that the creative law of the mind is not for selfish will, but for alignment with divine principle. Manifestation without love, without harmony, without reverence for truth will always collapse on itself. So just as prayer fails when it becomes empty words, manifestation fails when it becomes empty wishing. The law does not respond to the surface of thought, it responds to the deep vibration of belief. And here we discover the unity. Prayer and manifestation are not two separate powers, but two approaches to the same law. Prayer clothes the law in sacred devotion. Manifestation clothes the law in practical psychology. But both rely on the same mechanism. Thought charged with feeling, held with conviction, becomes form. This law is as impartial as gravity. It does not ask, was this thought a prayer or a manifestation? It simply reflects the inner state. That is why both the saint and the skeptic, the mystic and the materialist, can see results. The law is not owned by religion or philosophy. It is woven into the fabric of creation itself. But if the law is so simple, why do so many fail? Why do prayers seem unanswered and manifestations remain unrealized? The answer lies in divided thought. We say one thing but feel another. We pray for health but imagine sickness. We affirm abundance but secretly fear poverty. We visualize love but continue to dwell on loneliness. The law cannot be deceived. It does not respond to the surface words of the mind, but to the deep vibration of the heart. This is why Emmet Fox emphasized purity of thought. He knew that the slightest contradiction between belief and desire would scatter the results. True prayer, true manifestation, requires not only words or images, but wholehearted conviction. So the first great lesson is this: there is no verses. Prayer and manifestation are not enemies, not even alternatives. They are the same stream flowing under two names. The real question is not which one works, but are you using the law correctly? If you pray without faith, you are merely reciting empty words. If you manifest without conviction, you are merely daydreaming. But if you align thought and feeling with the truth of divine mind, then whether you call it prayer or manifestation, the law must act. So, as we leave this chapter, let us carry this understanding. Every time you pray, you are manifesting. Every time you manifest, you are praying. The difference is not in the act, but in the awareness. The more you know the law, the more powerfully it works in your life. In the next chapter, we will examine why prayer has been so misunderstood and how centuries of misconception have turned a scientific practice into superstition. Once you see this clearly, the fog will lift, and you will understand why so many prayers seem unanswered, and how to make yours alive again. Chapter 2. The Misunderstanding of Prayer. Prayer. The very word stirs 1,000 images, hands folded, heads bowed, voices whispering into the silence. For millions, prayer is the most sacred of human acts, the bridge between the finite and the infinite. And yet, how much confusion surrounds it? How many people pray for years and never see results? How many cry out in anguish, only to feel abandoned by heaven? How many repeat the same memorized words, while secretly wondering, is anyone listening? This is the great tragedy. Prayer, the most powerful spiritual tool ever given to humanity, has been misunderstood, reduced to superstition, and stripped of its true creative power. For centuries, prayer has been treated as a kind of transaction. People imagine God as a distant monarch seated on a throne, dispensing blessings if properly begged, persuaded, or flattered. In this view, prayer becomes little more than negotiation. If I say the right words, if I repeat them often enough, if I humble myself low enough, then perhaps God will change his mind and give me what I want. But Emmet Fox shattered this illusion. He taught that God is not a moody ruler who withholds or grants at whim. God is divine law, infinite love, absolute good. Prayer does not change God. Prayer changes us. This is the first and greatest misunderstanding of prayer, the belief that we must talk God into doing something for us. In truth, Prayer is not about changing God's mind, it is about aligning our own. Think of it like tuning a radio. The music is always playing, but if your dial is set to static, you cannot hear it. You may beg, cry, plead with the radio, but nothing changes until you adjust the dial, and the moment you tune correctly, the music that was always present floods in. Prayer works the same way. God is constant harmony, perfect abundance, boundless love. But if your thought is tuned to fear, resentment, or lack, you cannot receive the music of divine reality. The static of negative thinking blocks the signal. This is why so many prayers go unanswered. It is not that God is silent, it is that we are tuned to the wrong frequency. Emmet Fox often turned to the Lord's Prayer, not as a ritual to be repeated by rote, but as a scientific formula for aligning consciousness with God. Consider its structure. Our Father, which art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. It begins not with fear or pleading, but with recognition. God as Father, Source, Presence, holy and unchanging. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done in earth as it is in heaven. Not a cry of desperation, but a declaration of alignment, that divine order already exists and is to be revealed here and now. Give us this day our daily bread, not begging for survival, but affirming that supply is eternally present in this moment. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors, not groveling for pardon, but releasing resentment so that thought may be purified. Every line is an act of alignment, not persuasion. The Lord's Prayer is not about convincing God, it is about reminding ourselves of truth. This is why mechanical prayer fails. To repeat holy words without belief is no different than chanting to an empty sky. Words alone do not move the law. Feeling, conviction, faith, these are the levers of creation. Jesus himself warned of this when he said, "When you pray, use not vain repetitions." Emmet Fox explained it clearly. 1,000 repetitions mean nothing if the heart remains unchanged. One sincere prayer, filled with faith, has more power than endless ritual without conviction. Living prayer is not measured by how long you speak, but by how deeply you believe. It is not the posture of your body, but the posture of your soul. And here lies another great misunderstanding. That prayer is only what we say with our lips. But your real prayer is the constant meditation of your mind. Every thought of fear is a prayer for more fear. Every thought of anger is a prayer for more conflict. Every thought of love is a prayer for more harmony. You are praying without ceasing by the thoughts you hold from moment to moment. This is why Emmet Fox insisted, your heart's desire is your real prayer. It is not what you say in church for 5 minutes on Sunday, but what you believe all week long that shapes your destiny. The law cannot be deceived. You may kneel and ask for abundance, but if you rise and spend the day dwelling on lack, your true prayer has already been spoken, and the law will answer accordingly. To correct this, Fox gave the world a simple but revolutionary practice he called the Golden Key. Whenever you face a problem, illness, conflict, fear, do not dwell on the problem. Do not rehearse it, analyze it, or obsess over it. Instead, turn your thoughts to God. Think about God's goodness, God's presence, God's power, and if your mind wanders back to the difficulty, gently but firmly turn it again toward God. Do this consistently, and the problem dissolves. Why? Because prayer is not a magic word. Prayer is a focus. By turning thought to God, you align with the truth of harmony. And once aligned, the law must reflect that truth into your outer life. This is what Emmet Fox meant when he called prayer scientific. It is not superstition, not a chance, not divine favoritism. It is the exact application of universal law. Just as planting a seed in fertile soil produces a harvest, holding a thought in alignment with divine truth produces outward results. The seed does not beg the soil to grow, it simply abides by law. In the same way, your prayer, rightly practiced, does not beg God to act. It simply abides by law, and the result is inevitable. So let us clear away the fog. Prayer is not begging, it is not bargaining, it is not endless repetition, it is not the manipulation of God's will. Prayer is the conscious act of tuning your mind to truth, aligning your thought with divine reality, and trusting the law to operate unfailingly. When prayer is understood in this way, failure disappears. You no longer wonder if God is listening. You know that every sincere thought, every moment of true alignment is answered immediately, not in some distant future, but in the present unfolding of your life. And so, as we move forward, we will see how the modern practice of manifestation, so often misunderstood in its own right, is simply another doorway into this same law. For where prayer has been reduced to superstition, manifestation has been reduced to shallow wishing. And yet both, when rightly understood, reveal the same eternal principle.
Chapter 3: The Misunderstanding of Manifestation. In recent years, the word manifestation has spread across the world like wildfire. Books, podcasts, social media posts, all declaring that you can attract anything you desire if only you focus hard enough. Wealth, health, love, success, all supposedly waiting just beyond the veil, ready to appear if you master the secret. And yet, how many who attempt manifestation end in disappointment? How many visualize for weeks, repeat affirmations until their voice grows hoarse and still see no change? How many quietly wonder, is this all just a dream that never works in practice? Just as prayer has been misunderstood, so too has manifestation. It has been stripped of its true depth, reduced to wishful thinking, and treated as a shortcut to escape responsibility. And because of this, many seekers abandon it altogether, believing it a fraud. But manifestation, rightly understood, is not fraud. It is the law. It is the same creative law that underlies prayer. And when properly practiced, it is unstoppable. The most common misconception is that manifestation is simply thinking about what you want until it arrives. A kind of mental shopping list: ask, believe, receive. But without depth, without alignment, this becomes nothing more than daydreaming. Emmet would remind us that the mind does not respond to surface wishes. It responds to the dominant feeling held in thought. You may say 100 times, "I am wealthy," but if deep within you there is fear of poverty, resentment of others, or disbelief in your own worth, the law will answer the deeper vibration, not the shallow words. This is why so many attempts at manifestation collapse. They are built on words without conviction, imagination without faith. The subconscious does not listen to phrases alone. It listens to the atmosphere of the soul. Another misunderstanding is treating manifestation as a tool of the ego. I want this car, this house, this relationship, and the universe must deliver. But manifestation is not about bending reality to serve selfish whim. The law of mind is not a genie in a lamp, it is a sacred principle. When thought is aligned with greed, pride, or shallow desire, results may flicker into being, but they will not last. For the law is not only creative, but corrective. It reflects not only what you demand, but who you are. If you manifest from selfishness, you may gain for a time, but unrest and emptiness will soon follow. Emmet warned against this trap. He taught that true manifestation is not about getting, but about becoming.
It is about lifting consciousness into harmony with divine truth, and from that harmony, all good flows naturally. Let us be clear. Manifestation is not magic. It is the deliberate use of universal law. The mind is creative. The subconscious accepts impressions as real. The outer world organizes itself around the inner conviction. This is the science of manifestation. When you visualize, you are impressing an image on the subconscious. When you repeat affirmations, you are re-educating belief. When you cultivate gratitude, you are tuning the vibration of your heart to abundance. All these practices work, but only when backed by genuine faith, persistence, and alignment with higher truth. Without faith, they are empty rituals. With faith, they are unstoppable law. The greatest error in manifestation is forgetting alignment. Many try to force results by sheer effort of thought, but manifestation is not about straining or demanding. It is about aligning with what already exists in the infinite. Think of sunlight streaming through a window. If the curtains are drawn, the light cannot enter. You may shout at the sun, you may beg for light, but nothing changes until you pull back the curtain. In the same way, manifestation is not about creating light where none exists. It is about removing the curtains of doubt, fear, and limitation, so the eternal light of divine good can shine into your experience. This is why Emmet insisted that the first step is always to turn thought to God, not to the problem. Manifestation is never about clinging to desire with desperation. It is about relaxing into faith, trusting the law, and allowing the infinite to reveal itself. Why then do even sincere seekers stumble? Often it is because of subtle saboteurs of thought. Fear, the belief that what you want may never come. Doubt, the suspicion that the law might not apply to you. Resentment, the hidden conviction that others prosper unfairly. Unworthiness, the silent belief that you do not deserve good. Each of these is a form of hidden prayer, a negative affirmation constantly impressed upon the subconscious, and the law, impartial as always, answers accordingly. This is why Emmet stressed purification of thought. He urged his students to forgive, to release fear, to cultivate gratitude, because he knew that no affirmation could override a poisoned heart. Manifestation begins not with demanding outcomes, but with cleansing the inner temple. At its highest, manifestation is not about attracting things, but about revealing your true self. When you align thought with divine truth, you manifest health because you realize health is your spiritual nature. You manifest abundance because you realize supply flows from the infinite source within. You manifest love because you realize you are already one with love itself. This is the secret. Manifestation is not the ego creating. It is the soul revealing. And now, the circle closes. Do you see how manifestation and prayer are the same law clothed in different language? Prayer says, Father, thank you, for it is already done. Manifestation says, assume the wish fulfilled. Both are aligned. Both are convictions. Both are the tuning of thought into harmony with divine reality. The misunderstanding is not in the law itself, but in how we approach it. Prayer fails when reduced to begging. Manifestation fails when reduced to wishing. Both succeed when practiced in alignment with truth. So let us set aside shallow conceptions. Manifestation is not daydreaming, not the ego's tool, not magic. It is the law. It is prayer in modern dress. It is the conscious act of impressing truth upon the subconscious until life must reflect it. And here we arrive at the heart of our journey. Whether you call it prayer or manifestation, the law is one. But knowing this is not enough. We must ask the deeper question, why then do both practices so often fail? Why do the results not appear, even when we try with all sincerity. In the next chapter, we will uncover the hidden mechanics of the mind, the very reason why belief, not words, determines everything. Until you understand how the subconscious works, you will never grasp why some prayers are answered in an instant while others fade into silence. Chapter 4. The Law of the Mind. There is a law at work in your life, whether you believe in it or not. It is as impartial as gravity, as constant as the rising of the sun. It does not ask who you are, what religion you belong to, or whether you call it prayer or manifestation. It simply takes the thoughts you impress upon it and shapes them into experience. This is the law of the mind. Picture your conscious mind as a craftsman and your subconscious as the workshop. The craftsman chooses the design, but it is the workshop that produces the object. If the craftsman provides clear blueprints, the workshop follows them faithfully. If the design is confused, distorted, or careless, the workshop still follows it, but the product will reflect the confusion. This is how thought works. Your conscious choices, your images, your affirmations are the blueprints. Your subconscious, vast and obedient, takes those patterns and builds them into your outer life. Emmet explained it with startling simplicity. Your life is your prayer. Whatever you think about consistently, you are praying for. The subconscious accepts what you give it, not as theory, but as fact. It has no power to judge, no ability to argue. It simply creates from what you feed it. This is why belief matters more than words. You may say, "I am healthy," but if you believe in sickness, the subconscious accepts sickness. You may pray, "God prosper me," but if you believe you are destined for lack, the subconscious accepts lack. Words without belief are like seeds thrown onto stone. They cannot take root. Belief is the soil that gives them life. Jesus himself revealed this law when he said, "According to your faith, be it unto you." Not according to your ritual, not according to your repetitions, but according to your faith, your deep subconscious conviction. Imagine a mirror. Whatever stands before it, the mirror reflects without question. Place a flower before it, and you see beauty. Place a storm-clouded sky before it, and you see darkness. The mirror does not choose, it only reflects. The subconscious is the mirror of the soul. It does not judge whether a thought is good or bad, noble or petty. It simply reflects what you place before it with feeling. And life, like a great theatre, displays the reflection in the circumstances around you. This explains why prayer and manifestation both work, and why they both fail. They succeed when you place the right image before the mirror. They fail when you say one thing with your lips but feel another in your heart. The mirror cannot be deceived. Here is where most people stumble. They confuse surface thought with true conviction. Surface thought is what you say in a moment. I believe. True conviction is the atmosphere of your inner life. I fear it may not happen. The subconscious responds to conviction, not to surface thought. This is why one person may pray once, believe deeply, and see a miracle unfold, while another prays daily for years and sees nothing. The difference is not in God, not in the law, but in the level of belief. So the practical question becomes, how do I impress the subconscious with what I truly desire? Emmet gave a clear method. Choose the right thought. Identify the condition you wish to see and frame it as already true. Repeat with feeling, not mechanical words, but a steady, calm conviction. Turn from appearances. Do not dwell on the problem. Turn thought to the truth of God's presence and power. Persist. The subconscious is impressed by steady attention, not fleeting wishes. Every time you visualize, affirm, or pray with faith, you are engraving an image on the mirror of the subconscious. And sooner or later, that image must externalize. Here is the trigger that awakens transformation. You are always manifesting. Every thought you allow to dominate is a prayer. Every emotion you nourish is an instruction to the subconscious. You cannot escape this law. The only question is whether you will use it consciously or unconsciously. This realization can be unsettling. It means your worries are not harmless, your resentments are not private, your fears are not idle. They are creative forces shaping your tomorrow. But it is also liberating, for it means you can choose, today, this hour, to feed your mind a higher truth, and the law will respond with a higher life. Some approach this law from a psychological perspective, others as spirituality. Emmet Fox refused to divide them. He knew that science and spirit meet in the law of mind. Psychology calls it the subconscious, religion calls it faith, mysticism calls it alignment. But the law is one. Thought held with feeling becomes experience. Prayer and manifestation are simply two ways of working with this law. Prayer emphasizes devotion, aligning thought with God. Manifestation emphasizes focus, aligning thought with desire. Both are effective when they carry belief. Both are useless when they do not. So now we understand the hidden engine behind every answered prayer and every successful manifestation: the law of the mind. Prayer works because belief impresses the subconscious with divine truth. Manifestation works because belief impresses the subconscious with the desired form. Both fail when belief is absent. And this brings us to the most practical question of all. How do we practice prayer and manifestation so that they are more than theory, more than words, more than fleeting hope? In the next chapter, we will step into practice. We will see how prayer can become creative visualization and how manifestation can be lifted into sacred alignment. We will discover exercises that Emmet Fox gave his students, simple, direct, powerful, that transform prayer into science and manifestation into devotion. Knowing the law is only the beginning. Living it is the true work. Chapter 5. Prayer as Creative Visualization. When most people hear the word visualization, they think of modern self-help. Picture the life you want, imagine it vividly, and somehow it will come. Yet long before the word became popular, prayer already carried this truth. At its heart, prayer is creative visualization. Emmet Fox made this clear. When you pray, you are not throwing words into the sky, hoping they will be caught by a distant God. You are shaping an image in the mind, an image charged with belief, clothed in feeling, and sealed with faith. That image, impressed upon the subconscious, becomes the seed of experience. This is why Fox said that prayer is scientific. It is not superstition, not ritual, not repetition. It is focused imagination aligned with divine truth. To pray rightly is to see the good as already present, to feel it as real, to live inwardly in the state you long to see outwardly. Consider Fox's famous method, the golden key. On the surface it seems simple. Stop thinking about the problem and think about God instead. But hidden within this is the deepest form of visualization. When you turn thoughts away from sickness, you are refusing to give energy to the image of disease. When you think about God, you are replacing that image with one of health, harmony, and life. You are not pretending. You are visualizing reality as it truly is in divine mind. Fox insisted, do not analyze, do not wrestle with appearances, do not dwell on the negative. Lift your mind to the image of God's perfection, and the outer condition must eventually conform. This is visualization at its highest, not imagining fantasy, but beholding truth. But visualization is not only about mental pictures, it is about feeling. Emmet explained that the subconscious responds to emotion more than words. You can repeat a phrase 1,000 times, but unless it is charged with genuine feeling, the subconscious remains unmoved. This is why effective prayer is always accompanied by peace, joy, or gratitude. These are not decorations, they are the power. Gratitude in particular seals the image with certainty. To thank God for something as though it were already done is to impress the subconscious with unshakable conviction. Modern teachers of manifestation say the same. Feel it real. Fox said it in his own way. When you pray, believe you have received, and you shall have it. Let us make this practical. Suppose you are facing a lack and you long for a supply. The ordinary approach would be to beg God for money or to visualize piles of wealth. But Fox would guide you differently. Sit quietly and still your mind. Turn away from the image of lack. Refuse to dwell on bills, debts, or fear. Begin to think of God as infinite abundance, pouring through all creation. Visualize yourself as standing in this flow, not outside of it, but within it. Feel gratitude rising as though supply were already here. Say quietly, "Thank you, Father, that this is done." This is not wishful fantasy, it is a creative prayer. It is visualization lifted to the level of truth. And the subconscious, receiving the image charged with gratitude, must organize life to reflect it. This shift transforms everything. The old way of prayer is asking, "God, please give me this." The true way of prayer is knowing, "Thank you, Father, that this is already mine." The old way of manifestation is wishing, "I hope this will happen if I visualize long enough." The true way of manifestation is assuming, "This is real now. I live in it inwardly." Do you see how both merge? Prayer becomes visualization, and visualization becomes prayer. Both lead you into the inner state where what you seek is already present. And yet, Fox warned against using visualization for selfish ends. The highest prayer is not, "God, give me what I want," but "God, reveal what you have already prepared." When you visualize health, wealth, or harmony, you are not creating them out of thin air. You are uncovering the good that already exists in divine mind. You are tuning your thought to the reality that was waiting all along. This lifts visualization beyond ego. It makes it a spiritual practice, a way of seeing with the eyes of faith rather than the eyes of fear. Fox urged his students not to make prayer occasional, but daily, not just in crisis, but as a rhythm of life. In the same way, visualization must become a habit. Just as the body is nourished by daily food, the soul is nourished by daily alignment with truth. He recommended short, frequent prayers, moments of turning thought to God throughout the day. You can do the same with visualization. Instead of one long session, return often to the inner image of health, abundance, or harmony. Each time, you impress the subconscious more deeply. Over time, these repeated impressions accumulate like drops of water filling a jar, until the subconscious accepts them as fact. And once accepted, the law must externalize them. So let us set aside the old division between prayer and visualization. They are not rivals, but allies. Prayer, rightly understood, is visualization infused with faith. Visualization, rightly practiced, is prayer clothed in images. When you pray, see the good as already present. When you visualize, thank God that it is already done. In both, you are impressing the subconscious with the truth of divine reality. And once impressed, the law must unfold it into your life. As we step into the next chapter, we will turn this insight around. If prayer can be seen as visualization, then manifestation can be seen as prayer. What happens when we lift manifestation out of shallow wishing and into sacred alignment? That is the question we now face. Chapter 6. Manifestation as Modern Prayer. We have seen that prayer is not persuasion, but alignment. We have seen that visualization is not fantasy, but truth revealed. Now, let us turn to the other side of the bridge, manifestation. In our time, the word has been secularized, stripped of its devotional tone, and placed into the vocabulary of psychology and self-help. People speak of affirmations, scripting, vision boards, and mental rehearsal. They may not call it prayer, and yet the principles are the same. For beneath the surface, manifestation is modern prayer. Think of the way people speak of manifestation. Focus on your intention. Speak your desire as though it were already real. Feel the end result with gratitude. Now listen to the words of Jesus. When you pray, believe that you have received, and it will be yours. The language may differ, but the spirit is the same. The law of the mind responds not to titles or traditions, but to conviction. Emmet would remind us, it is not the form of words that matters, but the state of consciousness behind them. A modern seeker writing affirmations in a journal and a devout believer praying in silence may be engaging the same law in different dress. Consider affirmations. Many dismiss them as shallow, but their power lies in persistence. An affirmation is not about convincing God, but about re-educating the subconscious. It is a prayer spoken in the language of psychology. When you repeat, "I live in abundance," you are doing the same thing Fox urged in his golden key, turning thought away from lack and toward divine supply. Each repetition chips away at old patterns and impresses the subconscious with a new image. Affirmations are not magic spells. They are prayers in disguise, and when spoken with faith, they carry the same creative power. Or take visualization. The secular world frames it as mental rehearsal, but Fox would see it as sacred imagination. To picture yourself whole, happy, supplied, is not arrogance, but reverence. It is declaring that God's good is already present. The mistake is when visualization becomes wishing, a desperate attempt to grasp what feels far away. True visualization, like true prayer, is not straining, but resting. It is relaxing into the awareness that the good you seek already exists in divine mind, and your task is simply to align with it. Modern manifestation teachers encourage scripting, writing out your desires in the present tense, as though they were already real. This too is a form of prayer. When you write, "I am healed, I am joyful, I am supplied," you are engaging in praise, thanksgiving, and affirmation all at once. Fox would tell you, gratitude is one of the most powerful prayers. To thank God in advance is to declare unshakable faith. Scripting works because it impresses the subconscious with certainty, and certainty is the language the law understands. When we strip manifestation of superstition, we see it clearly. It is communion with the infinite, just as prayer is. The tools may be modern, the language may be psychological, but the essence is eternal. Prayer says, "Father, I thank you that it is already done." Manifestation says, "I assume the wish fulfilled." Both mean, I live inwardly in the reality I seek until it must appear outwardly. Fox would remind us that it is not the label that matters, but the consciousness. The law responds to belief, not vocabulary, and yet many object. If manifestation is just prayer by another name, why do so many still fail? The answer is the same as before: divided thought. They affirm abundance, but dwell in fear. They visualize love, but rehearse resentment. They script joy, but live in anxiety. The law cannot be fooled. Whether in the language of devotion or psychology, it responds to what you truly believe, not what you merely say. So how can you lift manifestation into the realm of prayer? Here is a practice drawn from Fox's teaching, reframed for today. Choose your desire. Be clear, but hold it lightly. Frame it as gratitude. Instead of "I want," say, "Thank you, Father, that this is already done." Visualize with reverence, not as fantasy, but as beholding God's truth. Release fear. Refuse to dwell on the opposite condition. Persist daily. Short, steady impressions engrave the subconscious more deeply than occasional bursts. When practiced this way, manifestation ceases to be secular wish-making. It becomes a sacred prayer. Fox always brought his students back to this. The goal is not things, but transformation. To manifest wealth without wisdom is poverty in disguise. To manifest success without love is failure. The true purpose of both prayer and manifestation is to awaken your soul to its oneness with God. When manifestation is practiced as prayer, it lifts you out of ego into alignment with infinite good. You begin to see that what you desire is not outside of you, but already present in the divine pattern of your being. The law does not grant it, it reveals it. So let us put aside the false division. Manifestation is not a rival to prayer, nor a shallow counterfeit. It is prayer expressed in modern form. Whether you call it affirmations, visualization, or scripting, the law is the same. Thought held with faith becomes experience. The question is never, does manifestation work? The question is, am I aligning my manifestation with divine truth, or am I merely wishing from fear? In the next chapter, we will face the hardest truth of all. What happens when neither prayer nor manifestation seems to work? What happens when you do everything right and still see nothing? Here lies the most painful part of the journey, but also the doorway to the greatest transformation. Chapter 7. When nothing seems to work. There comes a moment in every seeker's journey when the silence feels unbearable. You have prayed with sincerity. You have visualized with care. You have affirmed, scripted, and meditated. And still, nothing seems to change. The healing does not come. The debt remains. The loneliness lingers. In those moments, doubt creeps in like a shadow. Maybe this law isn't real. Maybe prayer is just words in the dark. Maybe manifestation is nothing but wishful thinking. If you have ever felt this despair, you are not alone. But let me tell you something, Emmet Fox repeated again and again. The law never fails. If prayer or manifestation seems powerless, it is not the law that is broken. It is our use of it that needs correction. Fox identified several silent enemies of answered prayer and fulfilled manifestation. They are subtle, invisible, and often disguised as ordinary thoughts. Fear, the quiet conviction that what you want will never happen. Fear is faith inverted. It is believing in the power of evil instead of good. Doubt, the suspicion that perhaps the law works for others, but not for you. Doubt is like planting a seed today and digging it up tomorrow to see if it has sprouted. Resentment, the silent poison of the soul. To pray for good while holding hatred in the heart is like pouring clean water into a dirty cup. Unworthiness, the belief that you do not deserve love, health, or success. This is perhaps the most subtle block, for it disguises itself as humility. Yet Fox insisted, you are a child of God. To believe you are unworthy of good is to insult the source of your being. Each of these thoughts is itself a prayer, but a negative one. Fear is a prayer for more fear. Resentment is a prayer for more conflict. Doubt is a prayer for more uncertainty. The law does not ask if you intended them. It simply reflects what you consistently impress upon it. Fox placed special emphasis on forgiveness. He said that harboring resentment while praying is like tying a stone to a bird and expecting it to fly. The prayer cannot rise. To forgive is not to excuse wrong, but to release your mind from the grip of bitterness. When you forgive, you free yourself, and in that freedom, the law can move again. If you want your prayers to work, examine your heart. Who are you still holding in chains? Release them, and you release yourself. Another reason prayers seem unanswered is impatience. We live in an age of instant results, but spiritual law works by persistence. A farmer does not plant a seed and expect a harvest the next day. He waters, waits, and trusts the process. Fox reminded his students, it is the steady, daily effort that counts. One prayer spoken once with doubt is weak. One affirmation repeated with scattered attention is fragile. But daily alignment, daily turning of thought to God, daily visualization of good, this builds momentum until the subconscious accepts it as truth, and once accepted, the result must appear, and yet sometimes even persistence does not bring immediate change. Why? Because often, prayer and manifestation are not about changing circumstances first, but about changing you. Sometimes the law delays results because your soul is not yet ready to receive them. The delay is not punishment, but preparation. Fox taught that unanswered prayer often hides a deeper answer. The strengthening of faith, the cleansing of thought, the growth of character. You may think nothing is happening, but inside, you are being transformed. And once the inner shift is complete, the outer shift arrives like a flood. So what can you do when nothing seems to work? Fox offered several simple but profound steps. Stop struggling. Strain is a sign of doubt. Relax, breathe, and trust the law. Use the golden key. Every time the problem rises in thought, turn your mind back to God. Refuse to dwell on appearances. Release resentment. Forgive daily. Clear the inner ground so the seed may grow. Affirm worthiness. Remind yourself, I am a child of God. Infinite good is my birthright. Persist with joy. Pray not with desperation, but with quiet confidence. Manifest not with fear, but with gratitude. These steps may seem simple, but they are powerful corrections. They align you once again with the law, and when alignment is restored, results inevitably follow. Fox always urged his students to lift their eyes beyond the immediate problem. He said, "Do not pray for rain when you can pray for the harvest." In other words, do not limit God to a single outcome. Pray instead for the highest good and trust that it will appear in the form best suited to your growth. Manifestation, too, is strongest when it aims higher than things. To manifest wisdom, love, peace, these are the roots from which all other blessings grow. Seek first the kingdom within, and all else is added. So when nothing seems to work, do not despair. The law is not broken. The silence is not rejection. It is a signal to look deeper, to release fear, to forgive, to persist, to trust. Prayer and manifestation are not vending machines. They are sacred practices that shape the soul as much as they shape circumstances. And sometimes the greatest result is not what you receive, but who you become. In the next chapter, we will lift our vision higher still. We will see that the true purpose of both prayer and manifestation is not merely to solve problems or obtain things, but to transform consciousness. For when you understand this, you will never again wonder if they work. You will know that they are working at the deepest level of your being. Chapter 8. The higher purpose of both paths. We have spoken much about prayer and manifestation as ways of obtaining results, healing, supply, opportunities, relationships. And indeed, these are valid and beautiful fruits of the law. But Emmet Fox always pressed his students toward a greater truth. The highest purpose of prayer and manifestation is not to change outer conditions, but to change you. Yes, prayer can heal the sick. Yes, manifestation can draw abundance. But if these practices end there, they miss their real power. For what good is wealth without wisdom, health without gratitude, or success without love? The true goal is the transformation of consciousness. Fox declared it plainly. The object of prayer is to raise the soul to God. Not to manipulate outcomes, but to lift the mind above appearances into harmony with divine reality. When this happens, outer blessings follow naturally, but they are no longer the focus. They are the byproduct of inner alignment. This is where many seekers stumble. They turn manifestation into a shopping list, prayer into a demand, spirituality into a marketplace. They measure the law by what they can get rather than by who they become. But Fox warned, if you use spiritual law only for material gain, you will soon be disappointed. For the law is not here to pamper the ego, but to awaken the soul. When you chase things, you miss the source. But when you seek the source, things follow naturally. Jesus said it this way, "Seek first the kingdom of God, and all these things shall be added unto you." That is the higher law. So what does true prayer accomplish? It transforms the one who prays. When you pray rightly, you do not merely receive healing. You become a consciousness of health. You do not merely receive money. You become a consciousness of abundance. You do not merely receive peace, you become peace itself. This is why Fox emphasized affirmative prayer, not asking for something outside yourself, but affirming the truth already within. Each prayer becomes a step upward, each affirmation a rung in the ladder of growth. Over time, you are lifted into a higher state of being, and from that height, life itself looks different, and manifestation too has this higher purpose. When practiced rightly, it is not about forcing desires, but about uncovering the truth of who you are. To manifest health is to discover that your real nature is wholeness. To manifest abundance is to realize that you live in an infinite universe where supply flows endlessly. To manifest love is to awaken to the truth that you are already one with love itself. In this way, manifestation ceases to be about grasping and becomes about revealing. It is not ego demanding, but soul remembering. Both prayer and manifestation point to the same awakening, the realization that you are not separate from God, but one with divine mind. Fox put it in the simplest terms. You are the image and likeness of God, and the universe responds to your thought. This is not arrogance, but humility of the highest kind, for it means recognizing the divine presence within you. When you pray, you are not a beggar knocking at heaven's door. You are a child returning to your Father's house. When you manifest, you are not an ego conjuring illusions. You are a soul awakening to the truth of its inheritance. Fox taught his students to always lift their prayers beyond specifics. He would say, "Pray not for things, but for qualities. Pray not for objects, but for states of mind. For example, instead of praying for money, pray for wisdom and supply. Instead of praying for a specific outcome, pray for divine order to unfold. Instead of manifesting one person's love, manifest the consciousness of love itself. When you do this, you place yourself in alignment with infinite good, and the specific blessings you need will arrive in ways greater than you could have imagined. The greatest gift of lifting prayer and manifestation to this higher purpose is freedom. You are no longer terrified when one desire is delayed, because you know the true blessing is inner growth. You are no longer enslaved by fear of loss, because you know the source is within you and cannot be taken away. This freedom is what Fox wanted for every student, to live not in fear, but in the assurance that life is governed by divine law, and that law is always good. So let us not reduce prayer to begging, nor manifestation to wishing. Both are sacred acts, designed not merely to fill our hands, but to awaken our hearts. When you pray, you are rising to God. When you manifest, you are uncovering the divine within. And when you live this truth, you realize that what you once sought as results are nothing compared to the transformation of consciousness itself. In the next chapter, we will bring all the threads together. We will see how prayer and manifestation, rightly understood, are not two paths but one, and how to live daily in this awareness so that every thought, every word, every moment becomes an act of creation in harmony with divine mind. Chapter 9. The Synthesis. We have walked the path of prayer. We have explored the methods of manifestation. We have seen their failures, their misunderstandings, their hidden saboteurs. And now we arrive at the summit, the point where both paths meet and the truth is revealed. Prayer and manifestation are not two competing powers. They are not two rival philosophies. They are not two different doors to the infinite. They are the same practice, spoken in different languages. Emmet Fox declared that life is governed by divine law, impersonal, unchanging, exact. This law responds to thought, belief, and feeling. It reflects whatever image you hold with conviction. Prayer works because it aligns thought with divine reality. Manifestation works because it impresses thought upon the subconscious. But these are not two different mechanisms. They are the same law described from two perspectives. The religious mind calls it prayer. The spiritual seeker calls it manifestation. But the law itself asks no questions of labels. It simply acts. The division between prayer and manifestation exists only in our thinking. One group says, I pray to God. Another says, I manifest through the universe. But both, in essence, are saying, I impress the truth of my desire upon the creative law of mind, and it becomes form. The words differ. The posture may differ, but the substance is identical. To believe they are different is like believing that electricity behaves one way when you call it power, and another way when you call it light. The name, call this prayer, call it manifestation, it matters not. It is the law in action. Faith is the heart of both paths. Without faith, prayer is empty words. Without faith, manifestation is empty wishing. But with faith, both become unstoppable. Faith does not mean straining to believe. It means relaxing into certainty. It means knowing that divine mind already holds the pattern of your good, and your task is simply to align with it. Fox put it beautifully. When you pray, turn from the problem and think about God. Do this, and the problem dissolves. This is also the essence of manifestation. Turn from appearances, focus on the desired reality, live in it inwardly, and the outer world must conform. Gratitude is the seal of both practices. When you thank God in advance, you declare your faith. When you feel gratitude as though the desire were already fulfilled, you impress certainty upon the subconscious. This is why gratitude is more than a polite sentiment. It is spiritual power. It transforms both prayer and manifestation into acts of knowing, not begging, into acts of certainty, not doubt. What does this look like in daily life? It means that every thought becomes prayer. Every belief becomes manifestation. You no longer set aside 10 minutes to practice spirituality and then spend the rest of the day in fear. Instead, your whole life becomes an act of alignment. When fear arises, you pray by turning your thoughts to God. When desire arises, you manifest by affirming it as already done. When doubt arises, you remember the law is exact and you return to faith. Prayer and manifestation dissolve into one seamless practice, living consciously in harmony with divine mind. And here lies the greatest revelation. The purpose of this synthesis is not simply to get what you want, but to awaken to who you are. A creator, a child of God, a soul endowed with the same creative law that shapes the universe itself. When you understand this, you no longer debate whether prayer or manifestation works better. You no longer measure spirituality by results alone. You live in the knowing that every thought, every feeling, every belief is sacred, for it is shaping your reality. And so you choose with care, you think with reverence, you live with gratitude. So the journey ends where it began, but with new eyes. Prayer is a manifestation. Manifestation is prayer. The law is one, and it never fails. From this day forward, when you pray, see it as a manifestation. When you manifest, see it as prayer. And in both, know that you are aligning with divine mind, the infinite source of life, love, and truth. In our final epilogue, we will gather these truths into a single invitation, a call to live daily as a conscious creator, to step into the joy of alignment, and to discover the miracle of a life lived in harmony with God's law. Epilogue, the invitation. So now the question has been answered. Prayer or manifestation, which one works? The truth is simple, and yet it changes everything. They are not two practices, but one. Two languages describing the same eternal law. Two doorways opening into the same infinite house. Prayer is a manifestation in the language of devotion. Manifestation is prayer in the language of psychology. Both succeed when rooted in faith. Both fail when rooted in fear. Both exist for one great purpose, to bring you into conscious harmony with divine mind. Every thought you think, every word you speak, every feeling you nourish is a prayer. Every conviction you hold, every image you sustain, every belief you repeat is a manifestation. You are praying and manifesting all the time. The question is not whether the law is working. The question is, what are you impressing upon it? This is your invitation, to live consciously, to stop scattering your thoughts in fear and doubt, and to begin directing it with love, faith, and gratitude. When you pray, do not beg. Thank. When you manifest, do not wish. No. When fear rises, turn your mind to God. When doubt whispers, affirm the truth. When resentment clings, forgive and release. Do this, and your life becomes a living prayer, a constant manifestation of divine good. But do not stop with things. Do not limit your practice to health, wealth, or success. These will come, yes, but they are not the summit. The true reward of prayer and manifestation is transformation, the deep shift in consciousness that awakens you to your oneness with God. For when you awaken to that truth, you discover that you are never lacking, never abandoned, never powerless. You are always, even in your darkest hour, a child of infinite love. So I invite you now. Begin today. Not tomorrow, not someday. Today. Choose one thought to hold, one affirmation to repeat, one image to visualize, one truth to declare. Let it be filled with gratitude, clothed in faith, and released in peace. Do this daily, and soon you will see. Prayer and manifestation are not theories. They are living laws, and when lived, they remake your world. Remember always the words of Emmet. Prayer changes things. But more than that, prayer changes you. And when you change, the whole universe moves in response. This is the invitation. This is the promise. And this is the life that now awaits you. A life lived in alignment. A life lived in truth. A life lived in the constant presence of God.